METS Ignited is the industry growth centre for mining equipment, technology and services. Australia's METS sector is a recognised world leader in innovation and technology, delivering the safety, environmental and productivity outcomes that sustain our global resources sector. The success of Australia's METS companies has created more highly skilled jobs and expanded the local economic contribution of Australia's leading technology sector.
Good afternoon, it's Adrian here from METS Ignited. METS Ignited is an industry-funded growth centre for the mining equipment, technology and services sector. Today, we also wanted to introduce some of the state-based programs and activities that support our industry. And I'm pleased to be joined by three panellists who will share some of the background on what each of their programs offer to support their local communities, the local companies in the sector. So today we're joined by Veale, who's a Senior Trade Manager for Global Vic. We have Bettina, who is the Manager of Supply Chain Development for the South Australian Government Department of Trade and Investment, and our very own Kathleen Conrad, who leads the Queensland Government Work Program for METS Ignited. So welcome all and thank you for joining us. And if I could maybe start with Alex, could you describe some of the strengths and opportunities you see within Victoria? Yeah,
certainly. I'd say there's two main parts to my answer to that. One is that it's an incredibly exciting time for what's happening within the state right now. It's resurgent in terms of gold production, as we all know the fantastic stories out of Fosterville and in some of the other land releases. Exploration has increased around sixfold over the last 3 years, and we're starting to see really exciting prospectivity in copper and heavy mineral sands too. So that's really opening up our local operations and then local supply chains, moving into those operations in a way that hasn't really been seen since the 19th century gold rush. So that's one really exciting part of the story in Victoria. The other one is more a direct legacy of the last 150 years of really robust involvement in mining and resources in Victoria. And that's our story as a corporate, a globally significant cluster of corporate headquarters with industry major players like BHP and Rio Tinto and Newcrest and Orica headquartered here in Melbourne. That really brings together a vibrant ecosystem of the technology providers and the universities and R&D. It's a self-reinforcing cycle where the mining companies and the majors based here contribute so much to all of those ecosystems, and then are in turn enriched by the highly skilled and innovative groups of people and industry associations and research associations that we have in the state. And being in a position with those technology and professional services that we provide locally to those global corporate headquarters, we're incredibly well positioned to take that and supply it globally, both to the operations of those companies around the world, but also their competitors. We can really trade off of the fact that Australia itself has such a fantastic reputation in this industry, and we're certainly proud to be part of that.
Oh, fantastic. I know, certainly very exciting down there in Victoria. Bettina, what about for you for South Australia?
Thanks, Adrian. So our government has recently released the Energy and Mining Strategy, and we're aiming to deliver 39% annual state exports, an additional 39% annual state exports, and add 5.1% to our state economic growth by 2030, building on our strengths. And some of our key strengths include, obviously, the resources wealth. We have a very competitive business environment, and we have some dynamic collaboration spaces. So resources wealth, we've got 65% of Australia's copper, our lead export to global markets. We've got Australia's largest zircon mine. We've got 80% of Australia's uranium, 2/3 of Australia's graphite. We've got valuable gold, silver and base metals. We've got the massive potential to grow iron ore, and we have recently had discoveries of major nickel deposits. We've partnered with the Commonwealth Government on this critical mineral strategy, and I could probably go on quite a while around that. We're also the world's proving ground for energy solutions that have attracted global innovators in renewable energy generation, storage, and remote area systems. And an example is the hybrid energy plant alongside our state's newest copper mine, Bettina. And then we're also planning to become a world-leading hydrogen producer, consumer, and exporter. And we've had some great webinars recently available on the Department for Trade and Investment's website. And we've also released a calculator that helps investors make any decisions around that. Then in terms of the competitive business environment, our premium office accommodation is at least 40% cheaper than Australia's other major cities. Labour costs are very competitive, at least 10% less. We have a great talent pool. Then we have a whole bunch of homegrown innovators that are making a global impact around this and have benefited from our competitive business environment. Adelaide regularly rates as one of the top 10 livable cities, and you can tell from my accent, I've come from elsewhere, but very, very happy here to be living in Adelaide. We're well connected. We've got a gig city that connects businesses to ultra fast and affordable gigabit internet up to 1,000 times faster than the national average. And then in terms of dynamic collaboration spaces, we've got the Future Industries Institute at Mawson Lakes. We've got a couple of dedicated innovation precincts, so Lot 14 in the CBD and Tonsley. And so Lot 14 is home to the Australian Space Agency, the Australian Institute of Machine Learning, the Defence Landing Pad, a new cybersecurity centre, the Australian Cyber Collaboration Centre, and many other companies in those sectors. And the Tonsley Innovation Precinct is home to automation, renewables, hydrogen, software, and advanced manufacturing development opportunities. It's got our world-class drill core library, which promotes the use of new technologies to look at our geology with fresh eyes. And we also have Australia's largest electrolyser at Tonsley. It's producing hydrogen gas for blending into the local gas supply. That's probably, in a very short snapshot, some of our key strengths. Thanks, Adrian.
Wow, that's fantastic. There's some selling points there, but it's such an interesting convergence of all of those different ingredients that are so critical to success. That's fascinating. So I might throw to Kathleen, but Kathleen, I was wondering maybe if you could share with us what some of the programs you offer to support growth in the resources technology sector in Queensland.
So I'm responsible for delivering with the Queensland Government, the Queensland Work Program, which is part of their 10-year METS roadmap. And it's actually been running now since 2016. But I think there's probably three main areas that I want to cover off on that today. The first is a cluster initiative, which has been, I think, really successful. We've started off with 3 clusters in Queensland, one on tailings and mine affected water, one around robotics and automation, and one around digital and data analytics. And it's very interesting to see how the members have learned to collaborate. And it's obviously a journey, but I think that the cluster initiative and building on top of that is one of the key parts of the program that I wanted to touch on. The other is the whole space about how we go about building capability. So within the Queensland Work Program, we're running workshops, we're running accelerators, we're running masterclasses, and they're all very much about giving the participants the tools that they need to be able to be, commercialise the innovations that are actually happening there. And then the third one I wanted to mention specifically was the collaborative projects. So we're getting the guys to collaborate with the clusters, we're giving them some extra skills with the masterclasses and the accelerators, but then we're coming out of that with some really excellent collaborative projects that are actually happening at the moment. And they're all about being funded partially by the Queensland Government, partially by industry and the participants, and coming together to do solutions. So really exciting stuff happening in collaborative projects at the moment in Queensland.
Wow, that's also one of those, I think, very it's a maturing ecosystem, but learning the next step of maturity and delivery is a really interesting part of the Queensland ecosystem. And then what about yourself, Alex? What type of programs do you offer to support the sector?
Well, there's a real laundry list of programs that we're running, Adrian. First important thing to note in supporting these, whether it's local industry development or connecting to international markets, is the massive reach that we have across the state and internationally. We've got, I believe, 13 offices across Victoria's regions, another 5 in Metro Melbourne, and then the real jewel in the crown for my agency, Global Victoria, which is our international export and international engagement agency, are our 23 freestanding offices in key markets around the world, where we have some locally engaged staff as well as expatriates from Victoria who really know our industry and really know their local markets and can connect companies with opportunities. So that's really the delivery basis for a lot of these different programs that we're running. At the moment, we're in year 1 of a 4-year program called the METS Regional Innovation Accelerator Program. That's helping regionally based METS businesses work with local mining companies looking to fast track product innovation and promote services in the marketplace. So that's really answering to what I was speaking about earlier on with the real resurgence in actual mining activity happening in Victoria rather than just being a cluster of headquarters. But then when we start looking at the international space, another thing that we're usually very proud of before the COVID times hit us was our really robust program of international trade missions. Over the past few years, we've taken several dedicated Victorian missions, as well as sometimes partnering with Austrade and occasionally also our colleagues in Queensland to tackle key markets like Chile and Peru. We're looking more into Ecuador. We've taken a couple of trade missions to Russia recently, and we're always interested in the Middle East and Sub-Saharan Africa. Then not to mention making sure that we show our faces at major events like PDAC in Toronto. Some of these offices of ours offshore also run their own local programs to really work on helping our cohorts of companies from Victoria connect into those local supply chains and get to know the majors and the right people who actually make the purchasing decisions that can help them really grow their businesses locally. My colleagues in Santiago are currently in the midst of delivering the LATAM METS Virtual Business Acceleration Program, which has really been getting some exciting traction dealing with majors in market like Codelco and Antofagasta to understand their needs and their pain points, and then try to do some tailored matching between our really robust capability that can help to solve some of those problems. We've also been really excited that the announcement was made recently for the Victorian METS Export Hub. Now that's a collaboration with Ostmine, the Federal Department of Industry, and our good friends here at METS Ignited as well, helping steer that project along. So that's funded to run for 3 years, and will really bring in the expertise from across Victoria's regions, as well as in the larger hubs of Melbourne and Geelong, to take that expertise to global markets. And then I have colleagues across our Department of Jobs, Precincts and Regions who do a lot more general industry development work that certainly touches upon these industries, if not being exclusively angled towards them. And we within Global Victoria also have a suite of programs like that as well, export readiness programs such as we were first to market with a comprehensive online assessment tool for prospective exporters, the Go Global tool. It's a comprehensive questionnaire that companies can fill in that then generates an extensive report for them for really understanding what their next steps are in how to successfully scale, expand, plug their capability gaps, and tackle international markets. We also partner with universities for our Global Intellect program, which brings postgraduate students and a mentor in to work with Victorian companies to develop market readiness, to develop market intelligence reports and market entry plans on top of that. And then I guess the final thing I'd say as well is, these are pretty atypical times, and we're doing a lot of work on COVID recovery. We have an already announced $15 million export recovery program that Global Victoria is coordinating. So a lot of that is going to involve pivoting our current, our legacy programs of trade missions and export readiness programs into that virtual space until it becomes safe and feasible to actually get on planes and do that pressing of the flesh that this industry really likes to do. Beyond that, there's been extensive industry support for those from our department in the Victorian Business Support Fund, which I think has gone close to $2 billion of disbursement so far to help our industry make it through these difficult times. So that's a bit of a laundry list, but I think I'll leave it at that.
That's it's very good to see also the work that you've done with Trade Investment Queensland as well, and some of the collaboration between the states, because there's obviously different skills and experience and areas of expertise, and they're all quite complementary. So the collaboration across the different groups is great to see. And what about for South Australia? What are some of the programs that you offer? And I know that you've got a few hats here, so this.
Adrian, we've got a laundry list too, but what I'm going to do is just mention a few of them, and obviously similar programs to what Alex has as well. So I'll just highlight ICN, Industry Capability Network, because that's the program that I manage here in South Australia. I'll talk a bit about the Core Innovation Hub, the South Australian Landing Pad, and then just some of our export programs. So ICN, if you're a med supplier, you'd be familiar with ICN, and we're across the whole country. Our focus is really on building local supply chains and connecting them to those major projects, and we're very active in the mining space. So I encourage any med suppliers to make sure their ICN company profile's up to date. They've got their notifications set up, they're getting those work alerts, and they're connecting to those opportunities. For the Core Innovation Hub, that's an initiative. The South Australian government forged this public-private foundation partnership with the Core Innovation Hub this year, and it was supported through the government's Economic Business and Growth Fund. It's headquartered at the Stone and Chalk startup at Lot 14, one of those collaboration innovation hubs I spoke about. And it's got a satellite at the other one, Tonsley, the Tonsley Innovation District. It's providing skill pathways and training packages to equip all tiers of the workforce in the skills and thinking in data science capability aligned to machine learning. The goal is to foster an environment where innovation thrives and where innovators are actively supported to grow their capabilities in this area to solve challenges and develop opportunities. It's really a place for companies in the med supply chain to connect and grow. The South Australian Landing Pad has been established to support companies looking to make their first investment in the Asia Pacific region. It offers up to 80,000 Australian dollars over 12 months for companies new to this region to establish a presence in South Australia. So it includes up to $40,000 to access our unique innovation and co-working hubs, Lot 14, Tonsley, etc., and up to $40,000 to access professional support and advice. And there's also case management to help companies navigate, network, and participate in the local ecosystem. And then in terms of export programs, a lot similar to Alex, we've got Trade Start, we've got a new global expansion program, and we've got other support for the Department for Trade and Investment. So Trade Start, if you're new to exporting, connect with your local Trade Start advisor and have a conversation with them about how you can connect to those markets. And it offers the combined resources of Austrade and our department, providing local assistance and a direct link to Austrade's services and overseas network. Our department has also just released the Global Expansion Program. That one provides funding for companies to help them identify impediments to grow into export markets and then to implement those changes that they need. And we also provide additional support to MEDS companies. And all I'd really want to highlight there is our upcoming webinars in December, just showcasing some of our local innovative companies that want to export and grow in export markets. So thank you, Adrian. That's our shorter list, but yeah, much of what Alex does and more and similar, and yeah, thanks.
No, the Core Hub in particular is one that we're big fans of. The clustering initiative that that Kathleen talked about that really, kicked off in 2016 in Queensland. South Australian government has supported a cluster development manager out of that core innovation hub, and there's great collaboration over with Western Australia as well with that particular program, but also the WA government are doing a lot in collaboration. They have the Nearabut Automation and Robotics Precinct and a range of other similar collaborative projects and programs, including those workspaces that you've all referred to, that I think are sort of the critical next step for our sector is to, increase and facilitate that collaboration. So that's fantastic. Very exciting and lots happening in each of the states. We're getting close to time, so I might just ask one quick question of all of you before we wrap, and that's, I guess, what else would you like to see the sector do to increase engagement, with the local industry? And I might start with Kathleen, on what you would like to see more of or done differently.
So I might be being a little bit left field here, and I might not even be answering your question, Adrian, but one of the things I've been pondering, because I'm relatively new in my role, is how do we actually bring all of the people such as ourselves, all of the people that are actually supporting METs together so that we actually provide better support for METs? Because I think one of the struggles for METs companies is knowing who to go and talk to about what. And I also feel that we're not maximising our scarce resources, our funding, when we all are doing somewhat the same things. And I'm not suggesting that the states are the same, but certainly within a state, I think we have a number of organisations that are offering services to METs. It's how we bring ourselves together, because there's some of, what is it that the saying, but basically making sure that the sum is actually greater than all the parts and we actually provide better value. So I'm not sure if that's the answer to your question, Adrian, but I think it's something that we should all be thinking about.
I think it's a really good point, Kathleen, and I think I'll take, for example, the Queensland clusters, the amount of engagement now from other states that are participating, and the state boundaries in some ways are dropping, but there's also the acknowledgement and recognition that there are different areas of competency and expertise that sit within each state. People are now not trying to build it themselves, but leverage the others. And maybe this virtual world that we've all had to live in with borders restraining has meant that we've all had to reach out more virtually and are more comfortable doing so. But I certainly see a great deal more of collaboration, and I'm sure there's always more that we can do to start to orchestrate across the programs. Alex, what about yourself? What would you like to see more from the sector, or differently, if a magic wand?
Look, I think Kathleen made some really great points there, and something I mentioned briefly earlier on. For international markets, at least, the Australia story is the one that they're interested in. Differentiating down to the state level isn't necessarily as relevant when you get over there. So pulling together and pooling those strengths is something I think that we can. We're doing some good work in that space already, but there's plenty of room for improvement. And I'd say beyond that, just anything that's more of an opportunity for close engagement with industry, rather than trying to guess those needs, really understanding those supply chains and the decision makers, so that we can really do our job effectively as being effectively matchmakers between those fast-moving innovators and providers of those products and services to some of those major legacy companies to really improve their operations, both locally here in Australia and in international markets. So always on the lookout for better opportunities to join the dots there.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that the total market is bigger than any one of us can serve in any one of our areas as well. So taking that united front overseas is a really important message. I know, again, I'll use a cluster example. The branding in those clusters doesn't have any state reference. They're all Australian images and combined effort. And I think the fact that we need to acknowledge our skills and competencies within each state and bring them together to collectively offer value to industry in terms of we talk at Mets Ignited often about solutions looking for a problem, but being closer to industry and really understanding and then combining forces to solve what the industry is looking for is a real key step. And then finally, Bettina, you get the closing comments. What else would you like to see in the sector in terms of engagement?
Thanks, Adrian. Yeah, I think collaboration is very important, and it's collaboration in Australia to compete globally as well. I also think what's important is for local businesses to remain competitive and become more competitive worldwide, and that includes some of those new technologies that Kathleen spoke about earlier. Just understanding which technologies are going to support and improve their competitive advantage, and then implementing them. So yeah, that would be my suggestion. Thanks, Adrian.
Oh, very good. Well, look, I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank you all for joining this session. And really what we wanted to do is just highlight how much support activities there are around in each local community, and particularly while I guess borders have been up and challenges have been faced through the current climate, there are lots of local support organisations helping companies reach global markets and still collaborate even when it's difficult to move across those borders. And all of the programs don't work in isolation. And I think every one of you gave examples of collaborative programs working with other organisations, bringing people together to solve challenges, but also being clear and understanding what your particular areas of strength and what you bring to the table in terms of aggregating that value proposition. So on behalf of Mets Ignited, I hope that everyone enjoyed this session and got something out of it. There is links on our website and in the virtual booth at Mets Ignited for IMARC for all the industry associations. Many of them have their own sites, so please go and visit their microsites. You would have seen presentations from a number of the people here during the course of IMARC and their organisations, so please go look for them. And if you have any questions, please reach out and contact us at the microsite at Mets Ignited. But once again, thank you everyone, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.
Mets Ignited is the industry growth centre for mining equipment, technology and services. Australia's Mets sector is a recognised world leader in innovation and technology, delivering the safety, environmental and productivity outcomes that sustain our global resources sector. The success of Australia's Mets companies has created more highly skilled jobs and expanded the local economic contribution of Australia's leading technology sector.